when you introduce us, we would put on by staying in this meeting. Yeah, but
Namita, you are on mute.
Hello and welcome back. For the second panel discussion of the day, we will look at the digital strategies driving the various verticals of the built environment. Our panel consists of experts from various verticals, and they will explain the digital strategies, what they have adopted, what has proven to be beneficial, the challenges they face, and how objectives can be met to drive success. The moderator of the session is Samad Sheikh. He's a digital transformation lead at JLL. He's an expert in real estate technology sector in the Middle East. He has worked with several leading industry companies and implemented world-class technology architectures for clients across the Middle East. Now to our speakers. We have speakers from various verticals of the built environment. First is Ayman Kichli. He's the founder and managing partner at Ray Labs, a company known for its high-end property and tenant management SaaS solutions. We have Mr. Mohammed Abul Laban. He is currently the CEO of Dayar Facilities Management. He is an active and influential figure within the Middle East FM industry. He began his career in 2001, and he has worked in both UAE and Saudi Arabia. We have Mr. Prabhu Ramachandran. He is the founder and CEO at Facilio, an AI-driven property operations platform that allows real estate owners to aggregate building data, optimize performance, and control portfolio operations. Next, we have Mr. Syed M. Balala. He is the Director of Property Management at Land Sterling. He is specialized in increasing facility management efficiency to maximize returns for shareholders and investors. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Tariq Nizamuddin, currently the CEO of AG Facilities. Tariq Nizamuddin brings more than 27 years of experience as a senior asset management professional with an exceptional track record in leadership positions across global entities. I will now hand over the session to Samad.
Thank you, Namita. All right, guys, so I have a few questions that I have prepared for this session, and the way we'll go through that is I'll direct these questions to different speakers, and then I'll allow the other speakers, if they would like to add anything to that point, we'll open that up. And then at the end of the session, if there's any other questions from the audience, we'll field those as well. So let's get started. So the first question that I have is, how are FM and property management companies using digitization to improve end user services? And I'll just direct this question towards Mr. Syed.
Yes, first of all, man, thank you for the invite. It's much appreciated. Nice to meet everyone here that's joining us today. And now, in KSA markets, a little bit different than UAE, where I think most of you are located. Now, in the KSA market, how to digitalize between facility management and property management is actually a new sector here in KSA, which everyone nowadays is trying to implement in a lot of their properties or assets here in the KSA market. Now, most landlords that you do speak to, they're not very well aware of, the prop techs and the new technologies that, we incorporate here in the KSA market. Of course, it makes, prop tech or software specified for the facility management and property management is very, very efficient nowadays. Of course, it has a long way to be, much more efficient than what it is now. And, there's a lot of companies in the KSA market that are actually working towards that. So to answer your question, digitalization between property management and facility management has to very, very well be integrated. Now, most of the companies here in KSA, or most of the property management companies, they kind of defer both. They think property management and facility management is not integrated. In fact, it really is. Which nowadays you have to incorporate it. People think a lot, most of the time, is property management is, leasing and rent collections. No, it's not. It's much more than that. It's much more with tenant relations, maybe the fit out management, which, incorporates the facility management. Of course, you have to have an asset registry for a lot of properties that you have. So it's very important to incorporate digitalization nowadays, and especially in the KSA market. And it's very new here in the KSA market as well.
I wonder, does anyone want to add anything specifically about the end users? So the actual residents and the customers and the tenants, what is the expectation that you guys are seeing in the market, specifically in KSA, for these end users requesting digitization?
Hi, this is, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, today, all the client's expectations are very high because of what's happening in the world, because of the open channels everywhere. So the competition is very tough for any service provider in any industry, specifically in property and facility management. A client is looking for peace of mind. They are looking for integrated services that give them the comfort in the facility they are living or they are operating in or they're working in. Landlords are looking for best revenue for their properties, and it's all comes with an integration, full integration between the property and facility management. There is a very thin line between the two industries. Some people don't understand, from outside the industry, don't understand the difference, but we, as facility management, we complement the property management. And today, the digitalization, the softwares, basically the data-driven decision-making, it's all about enhancing the life of the tenants, the building users, which today cannot be achieved in a traditional way. You need to depend on new applications. You need to depend on machine learning and artificial intelligence. We are still in the beginning, obviously, but this industry is progressing very fast worldwide and within the Middle East, specifically in the United Arab Emirates. I know that Saudi Arabia also is trying to catch up. But also the progress that happened in the Saudi Arabia over the past few years is impressive. And I think within a couple of years, we will see a normal trend that will be catering the Saudi market because the market is different, the requirement is different, and the end user expectation is different.
Hi, this is Prabhu from Facilio. On top of what Syed and Tariq shared, I'll touch specifically on the commercial properties point of view. What end users are expecting now is, in case of office users, the priority for the landlords is to bring back the occupants so that they feel safe and comfortable in terms of air quality and sanitization. In hospitality, in healthcare properties, there is new government compliance that property teams has to adhere to. And then today, tenants are expecting cost reduction in terms of their utility bills, plus the end occupants. They are now used to a better service level in their other part of their life, like when they order a food, when they order a cab. So they are expecting that level of comfort. So how property management and FM teams are planning to meet these with the help of digitization is, there is a huge focus now towards mobile enabling their workforce. So how can the workforce be mobile enabled, given real-time insights? So that is one part. The second part, which has been traditionally missing, is how to equip leadership with actionable insight, both from the property managers, C-level executives, operations head. How do we equip them with real-time data about the properties, the problems customers are facing, how the field service is performing? So that is another area where digitization is being looked upon as a way to meet these new end user needs. And finally, like Tariq mentioned, the next thing the customers are moving towards is, how do we start building this whole data-driven operations for strategic initiatives. So these are some of the key new changes that we are seeing across the Middle East region.
Samit, this is Ayman from Ray Labs. If I may add, again, I fully agree with all of the panelists' points, and I kind of reiterate these points, because this is really what we are kind of experiencing nowadays within the markets and within the KSA, with the technology moving, be it in the workplace, be it in the residential, trying to meet the end user, be it a tenant or a resident requirement, is something where, let's say, the expectations are high. And from a facility management and property management point of view, and if I may add, again, we're all here familiar with the community management as well. So these three are becoming more, let's say, integrated. And I think as Mr. Tariq has mentioned, the expectation of an integrated solution, a one place, one location for gathering data, for communication, for facility management, for property management is expected. So you do not, as an end user, you do not want to go to multiple, let's say, platforms or solutions in order to tackle your day-to-day let's say, activities or expectations. And this is also applicable for the team, for the workforce, as Mr. Prabhu was saying. So this is something that is expected, where today everything is collected and streamlined. I believe from our experience in the KSA, this is something that we have seen with our partners on the ground. They are trying to consolidate things. They already have solutions, digital solutions that are being integrated in one place. Normally, traditionally, let's say, FM and property management, let's say, entities used to invest a lot in the back end, in the back office kind of solutions, but now they want something that is more facing towards the clients, and this is where applications are coming in very handy. And I believe one last point that we noticed as well is that communication and keeping their end users informed about resolution and satisfaction from the end is very crucial. And one last point that we also noticed, if I might add, is that nowadays, from early on within the projects, the digitalization is being considered. So we know that in the KSA there are lots of big mega projects happening. So this is, from a digitalization perspective, this is being taken into account from the early days on.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the invitation for Synergy. And thank you, Samit, for facilitating this opportunity. When we are looking at, from my opinion, we need to listen to our customers. And I can agree with all what have been said here. And the idea today is that we need to improve their experience. So being, cooperating between property management or owners association or community management with facilities management is essential. So the idea is to listen to them, tailor a solution for them, and ensure that we are reachable for them through systems, through applications, through a website, through the call center. And all of those have a digitalization at the back end. And this digitalization helps them find information, helps them find the access to the right person, to the right department at the right time, 24/7. All these things raise the level of service. And I think with now the globalization and people knowing, living in this internet bubble or into this digital world, they know how the service level is being delivered in the US and in Canada and in other parts and in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi. And they expect that high level service to reach the GCC market, especially in Saudi Arabia, and to improve. Now, in all fairness, in some areas in Saudi Arabia, the level of service is right up there. So if you go to Aramco, you'll find that it is more than 5 stars. So it depends on the project. It depends from what stage FM and property management have been involved and the systems have been installed. And In other places, you will find that it is in infancy stage, and some places it's in the middle. So hopefully that the whole market will grow to ensure that there is matured services across the whole Saudi market in the future.
I think from each of the panelists, that's a great introduction to digitization. I think I firmly believe and agree with what has been said, both with the integration of property management and facility management and the value of data across these various systems and understanding the whole user journey and user experience and touch points and evaluating that data throughout that journey. I think that's the future of facilities and property management. So now that we've talked about the trends, what I would like to look at is specifically from the operations side, where are we seeing the most streamlined operations and where's the brass tacks? So like, it's an American saying, but where is the ROI? Like for the landlords, why does it make sense to digitize? And what's the biggest driver that you guys are seeing for digitization, specifically from the operations side? And for this one, I think maybe we can start with Mohammed.
Thank you very much. Digitalization is very important for operations because they will have end-to-end access to information and have from the service request to work order to invoicing to KPIs, everything is interlinked to access from the client on his dashboard to ensure that he has access to the right reports at the right time. Performance management, the KPIs, the SLAs, managing his own team. So let's say in our company, we have Abu Dhabi as a region, we have Dubai and the Northern Emirates. So each one has a number of projects under it. So you can go down to the level of service or a level of region or level of portfolio and take your data from there and ensure that you're taking informed decisions. So the key for us is to have access to the data to ensure that we take informed decisions, to ensure that we are cost effective from one perspective, have quality of service delivered at all time, and that it is sustainable and a steady service provided to the customer at any moment of time during the lifetime of the contract.
Thank you. I think especially that drill down capacity in order to be able to analyze your data and really get to the root cause of some of the issues and the potential opportunities for return is definitely something that we're seeing in the market. Do any of the speakers want to add in terms of what is the biggest driver behind digitization?
Samit, you have touched a very important point about how can you prove to your client the feasibility of the digitalization and what is the ROI. This is today for, I think Prabhu will agree with me, and probably this is a challenge that he will be facing as he is specialized in selling technologies. Because of the speed that is of the innovation and the products, every day you have a new product, it is very difficult to sit with a client and prove to them and showcase the feasibility because most of the technologies are new. You need some time and you need to have a POC before proving to the client that there is an added value financially. It's not a secret that we are in difficult times after we have suffered from a couple of crises. COVID hit is still in the air, and now we know what's happening around the world. So convincing a client, FM client, to invest in technology is not easy at all unless you prove to them the ROI. And proving the ROI is a big challenge because you will be selling them ideas, and for them it could be theories. You cannot, because you don't have a solid case study that will show them, that you cannot showcase that I have applied this somewhere and this is the result.
Yeah. So yes, Tariq, yes, there is always this question of how do we convince customers in terms of ROI. The more common trend that we are seeing is it starts with the CAFM system. Like traditionally, the CAFM system has been a system of records. You have a asset registry and it's very web driven, very less mobile. And then that is where there is a lot of action happening where customers are open to moving towards first step is how do we move towards a more modern CAFM that is mobile enabled, that works more than just a system of records to a outcome driven system. In terms of outcome, how does it improve the workforce efficiency by enabling collaboration between your teams, your vendors, third-party contractors, all of them connected towards same systems, mobile enable, working on same set of data. So that brings faster time to react for problems, faster time to fix problems. So the next thing is, this is another key piece that is missing in the legacy system is leadership. The key leadership doesn't really have a tool today because the traditional CAFMs are all used by the field force, and leadership, what leadership gets is usually like set of Excel sheets or simple reports once in a month or once in a quarter. Rather than that, now customers are moving towards how can there be a leadership app that where leadership, they have all data on fingertip in terms of critical problems, aging assets, and which are the facilities that are wasting energy, wasting water, so that leadership can actually work along with their own teams, work along with the tenants, work along with the third-party vendors to strategically solve this problem. So second area is how do we bring leadership into the whole CAFM, CMMS aspects into it. And the third one, which is where there is a lot more ROI, is how do we connect the CAFMs layer and the automation layer? That is still, as Tarek mentioned, that is still in a very early phase. The value of the CAFM is broadly understood, and the value of modern CAFM where everybody is mobile enabled, it improves workforce efficiencies, also sort of understood. But the next frontier is how do you connect the CAFM system with the existing BMS, existing chiller systems, existing elevator system, automatically pick up data. That is where you can really bring in machine learning, big data, predictive maintenance. That I agree is an early we are in an early phase. We really need champions to come and look at those kind of solution. Okay, but I see that that is also particularly among the larger customers, like customers having large set of properties. There is already a lot of customers themselves releasing RFPs where they are looking at modern CAFM system that can connect to BMS, that can connect to the controllers and the sensors to pick up data, and then help them reduce energy, help them with predictive maintenance, so that their productivity of their workforce also moves
Power
up.
optimization.
Yeah.
But see, now CAFM system, absolutely in the market is definitely required. But as the gentleman stated that even Mr. Tarek said, it's very, very difficult to, to show the client that this is an asset to him and how he can, really invest in such a software.
Actually, it's an investment, not an asset. I call it investment. It's
absolutely,
not a cost,
absolutely.
It's an investment. Yeah.
Investment to his asset. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So he has to think about it that, if one day comes that he's, he wants an exit strategy out of this property or this asset of his, that this program actually comes with it as an asset of the property. Because this is an archive. This is all database that's included with the property. Now we're speaking in terms of facility management. Now, how do you incorporate it with the property management side of things? This is where the challenge comes in nowadays. We're sure that we can calculate KPIs and key performance indicators on all the FM and all the asset registries and what's going on and how to repair them the fastest way, or how to do the emergency procedures and how to energy save on the building. And this is where the challenge comes in, is the landlords or the investors don't think that by investing in such software, I'm actually retaining my tenants. If tenants of mine in my asset or in my building or in my commercial building, if they complain about, for example, an AC, stopped working on a nice hot day, how can I contact this person? Most of the time, they'll just walk to his, the manager's office and say, you know what, I have a AC problem in my office. We have to change this theory. There has to be some sort of application where you can actually require or demand a repair within a certain amount of hours. So this actually concludes, even when you come to, for rent collections, at the end of the year, you rent collect from that tenant. You need to see all the things that happened in that unit. So you can come down to, if he wants a discount, or, if he evacuates and you want somebody else to onboard on that property, you have to actually have database on that building, on that unit, on that slot, on that shop. So this is a very important database that we have to archive in that system. So it definitely has to be integrated. It cannot be segregated.
Again, if I may add, so I think that the point also that Mr. Prabhu was raising regarding the KPIs, the dashboard, the insights for management is very important, and
Absolutely.
we're seeing lots of let's say drive towards having these customizable and these tailored kind of dashboards. This is at least from the experience we're having. Another point that is also important is that there's a bit of let's say drive, and I think
I think we lost the sound from Ayman.
Sorry, can you hear me?
The mic, yes.
Yes, sorry, I was saying, Mr. Tariq, you mentioned something about COVID, and I believe from our experience, we noticed a bit of acceleration also of some of the digitalization, especially in workplaces. So I know here we're talking maybe about experiences in both commercial and residential, but in the workplace, if you take as an example the access management automation, like the things that happened there, we saw lots of drive towards touchless, towards payments that are also like digital payments. So I believe that some of the things that happened, I know, big hit for lots of, let's say, the companies in the sector, but also it drove a bit of faster digitalization that helped also the end users be more comfortable regarding cleanliness, regarding like additional solutions that were driven by technology. I think we kind of noticed in the market. So I'm not sure if that is also the feeling from everyone on the panel, but this is at least where we had some insights. Even now, when going back to the office, lots of let's say digital solutions to optimize space utilization are being considered very, very seriously by lots of the big players.
So from my side, the two common themes that I'm seeing here is the requirement for further analytics, the ability to drill down and understand exactly your data. And the second one that I'm seeing is the integration, specifically integrating data from the traditional system, which is ever prevalent in all these buildings, the CAPM, and integrating it to get insights specifically around how do I convert a better facility management, better environmental or more sustainable building into more leases. So I think the core focus, regardless of both of those outcomes, is how is the data. So we've seen big data as a trend throughout real estate, and specifically in real estate with the BMS, the CAPM, we're talking thousands of assets in one building. Within that 1,000 assets, you have hundreds of alarms. So we're talking about a lot of data. Is big data management something that's overwhelming? And how mature do you think the property management and the facility management market in Dubai and UAE and Middle East and KSA is dealing with big data? And I can direct this question to Prabhu if you want to start.
Yeah. So on the topic of big data, frankly, I would say the industry is like bit sort of some distance from really moving to big data. If we look at current problems, the operations are very siloed, broken. There is a lot of manual processes, and a lot of staffs are not even mobile enabled, and leadership doesn't have visibility. These problems have to be solved first. First, there has to be a good amount of digitization across the spectrum of leadership to field services to tenants. And then comes the problem of like, how do you really make data-driven decision? First is everybody mobile enable, a lot of manual processes are solved, digitized and all of that. And then is the problem of data. In data, the much bigger problem now is the data collection itself. So data is there in so many different systems. So you need to have a easier, cost-efficient, time-efficient way to go and pick up data that is there in, say, a sensor data or a BMS data or a legacy system data. And then we have to worry about the quantum of data. On the quantum of data, I think there is enough technology that is already available to handle such data. Even though like buildings have a lot of sensors, we have the right set of technology in terms of cloud and tools to handle the data. So before that, we need to solve this whole digitization, mobile enabling workforce, bringing that new habit of moving towards paperless, seamless operations, and then solving the problem of unlocking data that is already available in so many different proprietary systems. And then the quantum of data itself is not a big problem, I would say. Of course, we come from a technology background. My views might be different from other panelists, but I strongly believe that picking the data and the whole behavioral change is much more important for the industry. And once we solve that, it's a good problem to solve. The huge volume of data, it's a good problem to solve. There are enough mature technology available for us to go and solve it.
Prabhu, I have a question for you. Sorry, Samit, I'll take your role.
No.
I've noticed that a lot of companies are collecting data, but without any added value. So they collect the data and they don't know what to do with it. Are you noticing this in the market? Are you seeing this with your clients?
Yes and no. Like the data collection, right? It's in, again, there is a BMS level data collection. And then there is a CAFM level data collection. And then there are projects they run on utility data collection.
Exactly. And some of them putting sensors and collecting data.
Yes, collecting data. But unless all of these are working together, then finally the energy saving is going to come by the ability of facilities management staff to get some real-time insight about, okay, this HVAC is running overloaded, or there is no people on this floor, but still the air conditioning is running. Only when they know before the next day, now they can go and act on it. Yeah. So that is where the problem. There is a lot of data that is being collected, but it's again at a siloed level. That is one problem that we are trying to solve, where we are not building any hardware. We are only having a software layer integrating with different systems, both utility data, manpower data, sensor data, BMS data, trying to bring it and then make it accessible for all teams, either it is sustainability team or finance team or FM teams or third-party vendors.
I'd like to give a service provider point of view. Yeah. Obviously, data is very important. And as you said, sometimes it's overwhelming, but it would be overwhelming if you don't know what to do with it. So the process actually, from the beginning, you need to know you want to collect this data for that reason in order for you to take that informed decision. So being reducing a temperature or switching off a chiller or whatever it is. So when you are looking from a field, you are collecting through IoT some data that will help you in your operation. Or if you're collecting the financial data, then you need to analyze it through your ERP to get some reports, or for your stores for minimum reorder levels, or for operation to know the number of people that are doing a certain number of B2C jobs. So do you need to reduce your staff rather than having your, because, you know, if you give to a supervisor or to a manager a number of staff, he will always want to have more so that he is on the safe side when he wants to operate. But if you give him a P&L and you give him access to a profit and loss account, and then he will say, oh, okay, I have a lot of staff, and that means that I have a lot of cost. That means I have a small profit or no profit. So the giving the data is important, but you need to know from the beginning what you need to do with it. in order for it not to be overwhelming and to actually benefit from it. It's like when you are in university, you have a lot of material, but if you look at the what is the target of the course and what do you need to get out of the course, you will focus on certain sections to analyze it to end up, passing the test at the end. So this is an important point. And the second thing that I wanted to talk about is, where does this go wrong? This goes wrong when the process is wrong. So today you want to analyze the data and you want to get an output out of it, but sometimes your process in the first place wasn't converted from manual to digitalized in the right way, due to you don't have the right people from your team to supervise it, or you don't have the right consultant or the right programmer. And again, when you go into digitalization, there's a lot of supervision that you need to do in order, when you do a process, you monitor it and then you further refine it to make it more efficient and more effective. So those are some things that from our own digital transformation journey we learn. So I just wanted to share also with the panelists as well with the people who are attending this session.
Yes, Mr. Hamad is right. Actually, you have to know what data are you trying to collect before you start collecting it. There's no point of collecting all data if you don't know what you're going to use it for.
True.
And if I may add, I fully agree with what you mentioned, Mr. Mohammed, and it's always about the right data. It's not just about the data. You can collect all the data, as Prabhu was saying. It's about finding the right data and trying to mine it and to find exactly what you need. Because in some instances, if you have different types of clients, some data might be relevant for some of those and it might not be relevant for others in their context. And also time-wise, this also has an impact, because over time you might see some trends. So even if you discard some data on the short term, you might need it on the mid or long term. And that is very important also in the data collection. I believe another thing, other than finding the right data, or let's say extracting the right data, is the knowledge that has to be added. So like Mr. Prabhu, like everyone was mentioning, it is how do I use this data? And I think Mr. Hamad, you mentioned that how do you show the insights and how do you make your, let's say, stakeholders, be it the end user or be it your employees or be it your management, aware of what this data exactly means. Putting it in a context is very important. And I think this is what each one of us is facing on a day-to-day basis, because we're overwhelmed, as you mentioned, with data and information. Filtering it and presenting it in the right way is the key challenge.
I think that's some great insight. I think the one point that I'd agree with the most in what Mr. Mohammed just said is specifically around the process of data and inheriting clean data. This is one place where I see KSA having a very large opportunity to really get into the forefront of the industry in terms of prop tech and digitization. If they're delivering these buildings and the transition to facilities management is done through digital processes, whether it's BIM, direct integrations to CAPM using common data environments, that they could really take advantage of this opportunity. So the question I'd like to ask the panelists is, where do you see KSA's prop tech market? And what's your advice on FM and what digital operation tools should be in place and processes for these greenfield developments that are happening in Saudi Arabia? I'd like to start with Iman on this one.
I believe, as everyone mentioned, there's lots happening in the KSA market, specifically on the FM and on the property management and community management. There are lots of communities that are being developed nowadays, and digitalization is key. I believe early on, or currently, the KSA has a big, let's say, opportunity to invest in an infrastructure to allow for digitalization, not only from one aspect, but from you can take it on a smart city kind of level. You can take it on a higher level, where that would also be very kind of, let's say, beneficial for the communities, for the entities that are operating in the real estate sector and segment. So I do believe that there is lots of, let's say, learning that will be utilized from other, let's say, neighboring countries and also internationally, be it from the UAE or from the US or from other markets, where the technology will be localized, will be adapted for the market, for the KSA market, for the KSA environment. And this is what we are seeing nowadays. There is a let's say an appetite to adopt the right technology with the right, let's say, return on investment, and with the right tools, with the right solutions, so that it can help what is happening currently in the KSA.
I think that's good.
Yeah, hi, this is Prabhu. I agree with what Mr. Ayman said. There is a huge growth ahead in terms of facilities management as more and more new properties are coming, as new cities are being built. So one sort of piece of advice that from based on our experience is that which I see is already happening in KSA is that, so one of the hurdle in this whole thing is how do we get into this mindset of moving away from legacy systems that are old, not mobile enabled, and that are holding the customers to move to this new model, because these are all typically larger brands, and you need a real champion within the organization to really go and take a decision to move away from that for better technology. And here, this is a huge opportunity because since there are more and more greenfield properties are coming up, we are already seeing, particularly in KSA, that from our experience, that there is so many RFPs coming out from greenfield properties where they are from day one, they are looking at new modern systems, CAFM systems that can talk to automation systems. How can the entire portfolio be operated from cloud? How can data be used for better workforce productivity? These are now embedded into RFPs during construction itself. So this is a great time for facilities management leaders to really open up, be free enough to go and think through this problem, choose the right set of technologies that they want for them and their team to be equipped with better technology to move forward. So that there's a right time to move away from legacy and move to more better modern system that can really help them to do their work better.
Okay, so I have an additional question now, and then we'll open up to the audience after this question. So if the audience wants to send their questions in, they can do so now. So we've touched on COVID and some of the other current events that are happening right now, which have been a major draw to the supply chain, which has been very heavily tasked. So how are you seeing the supply chain issues and everything that's happening in the current events shaping digitization and serving almost as an accelerant? Mr. Mohammed, if you'd like to start this topic.
Thank you very much. I think the events that we've seen in the last couple of years was COVID, and then now the unfortunate war between Russia and Ukraine. And in the first one, when COVID started, I think a lot of companies, especially small and medium companies, started looking at their digital transformation from online payment to giving access to looking at their systems to upgrade it, to be able to use paperless processes, etc. So that was a big improvement, and other examples were given during the presentation, like touchless items, etc., etc. However, now we move to post-COVID. I think now, alhamdulillah, we are lucky enough to say that we are at the end, if we are not, COVID is now behind us, but now we have a bigger challenge. The bigger challenge is that we have a war, and this war, and inshallah, it will not grow more than this, but with the current situation, as you all know, the price of fuel and oil and gas has gone really high, and that affects supply chain, that affects transportation costs, that affects the prices in general. So look at this. People came out of COVID, they are already exhausted. They've already, we are maybe a bit lucky in UAE and Saudi Arabia that the economy was strong enough and resilient enough that the cycle went back very quickly, and for a very short period of time, maybe it halted. But I think we have grown, and the economy has grown both in Saudi Arabia and in UAE positively in the last year. But other countries were not as lucky as us. So now there's a strain, extra costs. So when you are talking to customers, you tell them, oh, now there is an extra cost that the spare parts are higher, the consumables are higher, the transportation cost for our staff is higher. They will not feel very comfortable with any increase. But to be very honest, there's a limit where things could be absorbed. I believe a lot of companies have been good enough and nice enough with their customers during COVID. But now with this hype in prices, I've spoken with a lot of community management companies and property management companies, and they said, we are waiting for you guys to come back to us and to say, we need an increase in our prices. However, I think we need to look at it from, is it a short-term thing? Is it something that will stay with us for a long time? And I think in the next maybe couple of days, couple of weeks, maybe we would know, is this war is a short thing and it will be closed, or this is something that will end up growing into a long time war where the supply of gas from Russia will affect other places, as well as all the other commodities that have been affected around the world. So if it is short term, something could be absorbed, and this hype in prices can be absorbed. But if it is long term or medium term, then we have to go back to our customers, and that will be the big thing which will happen in 2022, in my opinion.
Madam, in general, I'm very optimistic, but this is a very long shot. The question that any client will ask you, that when prices went down, we did not ask you to revise your prices. To be honest, clients were very supportive. I'm sure that you agree with me and all the service providers that most of the clients were very supportive during the COVID. They supported us during when we had a big number of cases, and the cost of quarantine and the cost of the COVID test. But this was exceptional. For when it comes to, you've asked a very valid question in a side discussion. Is this a force majeure?
Yes.
I don't think it's a force majeure.
It depends if it's a short term or a long term.
The question, Mohammed, client will ask you this question. When the prices went down, okay, you had a big saving. Did they come back and ask you to revise your price?
My question is, when did the prices go down? I don't think this happened.
No. The oil prices, in some cases, reach very low prices.
Yeah. Keep in mind, in the last couple of years, prices, I haven't heard any client in the last 4 or 5 years, rather than telling me, reduce your cost, reduce your price, be most cost effective. And I think
when it comes to cost saving, the first 2 targets for any CFO is FM and marketing. Automatically go reduce the FM cost and go reduce the marketing cost.
And then you said,
unfortunately.
And I say I am a realist, and realist being, at the end of the day, you calculate your cost. There is a cost, and there is a place where you can say, yes, I can accommodate, and we have accommodated as any other customer service provider. A lot of client requests during COVID. I think both clients and property management, community management, FM companies, suppliers, everybody worked together during that difficult period. And that prices went down big time during that period. So there wasn't an increase. There was actually a decrease. So we reached a place where we believe we are very cost effective. So today, again, if it's something, a small impact, it's something like temporary, I don't think anybody will complain. But this is, inshallah, it is not long term, it is short term. I pray to God for it. More than the financial impact for the lives that are being lost in such a war, which is unfortunate. But at the end of the day, there is an impact on the economy worldwide, and hopefully it will be a minor impact. If it is a major one, we have to speak openly. And I believe the key point that I wanted to say is that we normally work in business partnerships with our clients, both property management, FM, community management. They are known to work in business partnership with the client. And the key to being a business partner is to be transparent and to say, this is the problem and this is the solution. So if it's a small problem, I don't think anybody will talk about it, and things will just move smoothly. But if it is a major problem, which inshallah it wouldn't be, but I think it will be, then this will have an impact on 2022. And then at that stage, it could be considered as a force majeure to go back to the client and say, okay, listen, there could be a variation because of 1, 2, 3. Those are the facts. The price of X spare is 10 dirhams and now it is 15 dirhams. So when you look at the full cost of the project, you'll find that there is a 20% increase. And I don't think any service provider does anything more than 5%, in my opinion, in this market. So if somebody asks you for 20% to absorb it, I will say thank you very much, but I cannot. That's my honest answer.
I'd like to just bring this back to digitization. So how are we seeing these supply constraints really affecting digitization? And maybe I face this to Ayman or Prabhu, if you guys can bring some insight. What is the biggest driver that you guys are seeing behind the digitization of your clients? Is it supply chain or is it other issues?
I'm sorry, like I didn't get it. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Sure. So I just wanted to bring this back into supply chain. So what is the main driver that you guys are seeing with your clients that's driving them to digitize? Is it supply chain constraints? Is it, like Tariq had mentioned, they want to reduce costs? What is the biggest driver that you guys are seeing that's forcing digitization in the property and facility management market?
So in terms of the operations digitization, supply chains today has a minimal impact. It's more driven by customers looking to reduce cost and retain their clients and improve the value of the properties. These play a much major role. And the supply chain, at least as of now, has little impact.
Yeah, it is the same here, Samit. It's also about kind of streamlining processes and that falls into the operations and all of this. So reducing costs, that's mainly what we're seeing, nothing yet related to the supply value chain.
Great. Okay, guys, so I think we have 5 minutes left. We do have one question from the audience. So the question is, could you please suggest how to handle KPI through digitization? So Syed, if you'd like to take this question.
Digitalization for KPIs. There's many methods that companies use nowadays. Either we can use it through data systems that we collect from the tenants or collect from the asset itself, from how it operates on a day-to-day basis. A lot of other companies are still using the old model Excel sheets and so on. But nowadays, I mean, when it comes to, for example, from Pablo's perspective and softwares and stuff like that, actually, a lot of these softwares nowadays actually have KPIs on equipments and assets that actually get incorporated into the system itself, which is a part of actually integrating the property management into the facility management section. Now, of course, we're at the beginning stages of doing so. It still needs many, many years to implement in a proper way and collect proper data. But we're definitely getting there. I mean, in the KSA and the UAE market, I think we're just scratching the surfaces. As much as we think that we're actually far ahead nowadays, we're just scratching the surfaces in comparison to North America. Me, from having a background experience in North America, I worked in Canada for about I lived in Canada for about 25 years. So the systems that we were using there, I honestly have not seen in the Middle East till now. So we definitely have to, as Mr. Prabhu mentioned, as champions, to try to bring in, these personnels to actually implement the systems here in the KSA market. And especially, over there, of course, in HVAC systems, of course, you more have heating systems there. Now we have HVAC systems here that are much longer. So, you consume much more energy. So when it comes back to the KPIs, it depends on what kind of KPIs are you collecting. Are you collecting it on the performance of the equipment? on the energy saver sector or the actual leadership and managerial level?
Yeah. I'll touch upon a little bit on that from our experience, from like what we have seen from customers. It's again driven by the business. We see that the end customers, the property owners, from their point of view, we have seen cases where customers are looking at KPIs in terms of how long it takes them to serve their tenants. If there is a request for, say, somebody to come and repair, how long it takes for to get the approval for the vehicle to come in, and what is the waiting period, and how long it takes for all the signatures to be done by the tenant owner, all of that to be done so that the actual work can be done in a very, very faster way. So that is like very, very specific example. But if you look at what is happening before, this simple use case I mentioned was taking like days together. Somebody has to submit their insurance of the vehicle, license of the driver, and it has to be verified before even they get a permission to enter the property. And then they need a pre-request where the floor has to be shut down. So it was taking days. And because of digitization, everything is done using apps and in a very simultaneous way. It is like 1/10 of the time now. That is one set of KPI. From a service provider point of view, we have seen KPIs where couple of our FM service provider customers are measuring what is the penalty that they are paying in because of poor service or late service. They have been traditionally paying penalty to their customers, and their KPIs is how can they reduce it by proactively handling the customers and making sure they're picking up the problems, addressing the problems, and there is a pre-warning for the leadership to go and look into it. So there the KPIs is how do you reduce the penalties that you are paying for poor service.
It's also a good practice as well to get the KPIs and feedback actually from your building tenants. And it tells you a lot about your performance and your team's performance as well.
Yeah.
Amit, I believe with regards to measuring KPIs through softwares, this is from an FM service provider, this is our bread and butter. So any contract that we sign, there will be a service level agreement, which is bound by key performance indicators. So you end up having a scorecard, and depending on the client, the level of the scorecard will be that complex, being 10 KPIs or maybe 5 or maybe less. So for example, you measure the preventive maintenance, how much percentage is done within a month. Is it 95, 98, 92? What is the response time? What is the number of calls attended? You can look from the other side on the energy management and look what is the KPI for the savings that you have agreed with the client. And from the data that you have collected, you can know the amount of savings that you have done. So at the end of the day, I think in facilities management, it is much mature, and you can ask any of the tier 1 and tier 2 service providers that have a good CAFM system with them to provide a monthly report through the CAFM system. And I think, it's something useful to discuss with your property manager, community management manager, or the client, and base the monthly meeting around.
Thank you. Just running out of time here, but I just wanted to thank the speakers. I think this was a very insightful session. And I think if we wanted to, we could go on for another hour about digitization and FM and property management and still be only at the surface of it. I'd also like to thank everyone that has joined us. We appreciate it, and just thank you for your time.
Yeah, I would like
Thank you again.
Thank you, speakers. It was indeed an insightful session. Like Samit said, it could go on forever, but unfortunately not. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your valuable time. And with that, we'll conclude the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
So please, this video will be available on this platform for a week. You can also view it on Media Fusion's YouTube page. Thank you.
Thank you.